What is going on in the Vancouver market? Is it hot? Is it moving? Is it flat? Is it down? Well, we're going to dig into that with my good friend Roland Kim, broker owner in the Vancouver area. He's got all the answers, so let's dig into it. Well, my friends, here we are, and that is my good friend Roland Kim on screen with me, all the way from Vancouver. They say it's the best coast. We'll find out. We'll find out over our next little series of videos here. Roland, how you doing, my man?
Good, Gary. Thanks for having me. How are you?
I'm doing awesome. We are having a little mid-spring winter here in Ontario, but I know good things are on its way. So with spring, and we're going to talk about the Vancouver market. But we should probably kind of get to know each other a little bit and allow our listeners and viewers to get to know you a little bit. You're a broker owner out in Vancouver, but tell us a little bit about Roland Kim.
Yeah, so Roland Kim is a realtor, has been a realtor for 15 years. Myself and my team cover a pretty large area from Hope to Squamish, but I specialize kind of in the core of North Van, East Vancouver, downtown. And we do a lot of business. We're in the top 10 of realtor teams in the board at any time. The good part with that is we really see as the changes happen in the marketplace, and we're seeing a lot of nuances changing right now.
Excellent. So for my Ontario viewers, yeah, Squamish and the mountains and everything, that sounds terrible. A terrible place to live and have your family grow up in, eh?
Totally.
Yeah, excellent. Okay, so I know here in Ontario, and especially in the GTA, our market is typically, I'm going to say, somewhat and very similar to our Vancouver friends out there in the Vancouver market. We're experiencing here, Roland, kind of across all home types, property types. We're getting into multiple offers and everything else, and that's just based really on inventory levels, real lack of inventory. Tell us a little bit about what you're seeing from that 30,000 foot view, and then we'll kind of get into the weeds a little bit.
Totally. Yeah, no, you're exactly right. Like our markets are heavily driven by immigration, and we get a lot of immigrants that are ready to buy homes in both our cities. So Vancouver has that factor. We're kind of landlocked in some ways. We have a lot of political problems on how to build and how to build effectively and quickly. And we've been like a shortage of building for 2 decades now. So that is kind of the underpinning of the demand is growing and the supply is always behind. Similar to you, the market is definitely warming up, but I'd say it's a bit more old school than it has been in a while. And what I mean by that is we're getting back to categories. So not everything across the board I'm finding is moving automatically if you're a seller. I'm seeing a lot of condos reprice themselves, where it used to be if you were an older condo with some outstanding work items that in a busy market you kind of got picked up with the wave. And right now, a lot of those units are harder to sell. And when you are selling them, you're pricing in the upcoming work. But then we have, pockets like the townhouse market and the detached market that we're seeing multiple offers as well. So it's definitely a lot busier than it was 3 months ago.
Yeah. Is that right? So you're seeing multiple offers on, say, that move up house or transition house, as opposed to, and I'm guessing here, maybe I'm totally wrong in your market, would the condo market be typical entry level, or the condos there are not entry level? Help me out with that.
So a good example is I have a 2-bedroom in the West End right now. I'd say it's like around a 125 price point. It's a 25-year-old building. It's been rain screened, so a really good condition building, but in no way a modern flashy new one. And equally, it's not a really old one. And so when I look at the sales in the past 2 months, when I sat down with the client yesterday, over the last 2 months, there was 15 sales. The majority of them were around the 1 million mark, and then a whole bunch around the 1.6 mark. And so that middle category that we are around the 1.3, 1.2 area, had very few sales supporting kind of what the direction of the market was. And we have quite a few more listings that we're competing against. And kind of how I frame that is as little as 4 or 5 years ago, certainly before COVID and before inflation, if you had an older apartment, a lot of buyers came in and they, would walk through and visualize all the things that they can do and like to buy kind of at the lower price and do the work themselves. And since inflation, since the costs have gone up, I'm finding a lot of the properties that are in nice condition, but could use some updating are harder to sell right now. A lot of the buyers are aware of the costs, and I think they just want a turnkey property in some ways. And
Interesting.
yeah, I think another factor too is a lot of buyers, certainly in the condo market, qualify for a lot of mortgage, but they may not have the $30,000-$40,000 to do the renovation themselves.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. So, and if I did some quick math here and you help me out with this, and we kind of guessing, I shouldn't say guessing, I'm guessing, you're going to know, is that roughly about $1,500-$1,600 a square foot then? Is that what people are paying for in that area
Yeah, I
for,
mean the
for
West End is
condos?
yeah, like it ranges from a low of 950 to
Okay.
1900. Yeah,
Yeah.
we got a real range now in Vancouver, the different categories.
Yeah.
Um, and yeah, so the 2-bedroom condo, it seems to be maybe a gap in the marketplace that's not that busy. It seems a lot of people are upsizing and downsizing, so anything that's 3 bedrooms is hot. Like, I think as little as 4 or 5 years ago, if you looked at the number of detached sales that made up the marketplace, it was around 38-40% of all transactions in Vancouver were detached. And we're down to like 26%. So it's a clear trend that, more and more people are living in attached row homes, townhouses, and duplexes.
Yeah.
And that category is under a lot of pressure.
Is that right? So, and that's where you were mentioning you're seeing multiple offers and sellers perhaps having, we'll call it the upper hand in a sense. Is that the case then? Yeah.
Totally. Yeah.
Yeah.
It's, I think when someone says in 5 to 10 years and longer, come over to my home, it's not a detached house in Vancouver anymore. It'll be a 3 bedroom, 1,500 plus square foot equation of some type.
Yeah, yeah, and I think you mentioned that's also based on being landlocked and having government or land restrictions and what you can do. Is that right?
Yeah, the landlock is certainly it's a visual thing, but I think it's more of a mental gap because we have lots of land. We just don't build high and we build sporadically. And for years, we've really had a lot of NIMBYism in the marketplace where people don't want change, but they want the solution to appear. And it's really simple math. I mean, on average in BC, in the entire province, we're building less than 40,000 new homes a year. And we have been on that rate and even lower
Right.
for about 2 decades. And, more than 50,000 people on average move to BC a month, and folks are aging out of their family home. And the math all my career has been pretty obvious, but we just don't seem to address it from a supply side.
Yeah, yeah. I think you're up against the wall a little bit more than Toronto is on that. With we are building up, but we have our fair share of NIMBYism and everything else, and but I think it's a little higher. I don't know what I'm trying to say. It's more impactful where you guys are. I truly do believe that. But so are people looking at things? I know for many years people would have, especially in detached homes, they'd have a second suites or in things like that. Is that still kind of the trend to add a second suite into some of those homes?
Yeah, definitely. So, like most homes in Vancouver, detached houses have a suite. Surprisingly, it's almost 75% of the suites in Vancouver are unauthorized. So they tend to be in older homes that it's not built to code with a two-address purpose. And so
Right.
it's kind of ironic because most of the homes that we're selling that are older have an unauthorized rental component to it that the city turns a blind eye to. The newer ones have legal suites built in and typically a laneway. But
Yeah.
interestingly enough, there's very few spec houses that come onto the market that are brand new detached houses in Vancouver because there's and if they are, then it's typically a 3 unit home, which means you have like 2 floor, almost 1,800 square feet to 2,000 townhouse style on the top, rental suite on the bottom, and then a rental laneway. And we put that all on one lot.
Really?
And yeah, so it's the developer tends to build a lot more duplexes because it's just safer to move those,
Yeah.
whereas the fully detached house, a lot of buyers who buy those would like to customize it themselves, and so we don't see a lot of that. We tend to have to build those.
Yeah, yeah. Now for that duplex, and I want to make sure my terminology is the same as yours in this matter. Is that we'll call it a semi, two units beside each other, or is it one land title and it's got 2 units to it? Help me out there with that.
kind of your first, so it's 2
Okay.
units. We tend to do back to back. Our lots are
Ah,
kind of
gotcha.
skinnier
Yeah.
than yours and longer, and so we tend to have the adjoining wall in the back, and one duplex is the front yard, one duplex has the backyard.
Yeah.
Um, and so, but you both have separate titles,
I
and
see.
yeah, and your joint feature would be you have a joint envelope insurance, and 15, 20, 30 years down the road, you talk to your neighbor about painting or doing a new roof, but
Yeah.
other than that, you're separate.
Yeah. Gotcha. Gotcha. And I know you mentioned it a little bit. You don't build up as often as perhaps you would like, or the industry would like. I know there's a lot of 4 or 5 story buildings in that area, and you're located. Remind me again exactly where you're located. Your office or most of your
Yeah,
business
so
is
our
located.
office is like strong East Vancouver, so
Yeah.
Fraser and King Edward. We're 10 minutes from downtown, 20 minutes to almost anywhere else. So it's pretty vibrant part of town now.
Yeah. And I remember I lived in Vancouver. This has got to be 20. I'm not going to say it, but I am 25 years ago. And I remember seeing all these 4 or 5 story condo buildings and really, really cool looking at the time. But man, could we ever use those to be like 15 and 20 stories now, right?
Yeah, I think different too with you guys. My understanding is your setbacks are almost minimal. Like, you build really close to the property lines. In
We
Vancouver, we
can.
have yeah, we have crazy setbacks that make it like inefficient, and we
Right.
waste a lot of space. And so that's I know the engineers and architects are really trying to teach the city of what other places are doing. And it's ironic because the city is talking about putting 6 titles on a regular lot in the future, which in my opinion would make tiny little 1.5 2 bedroom condos everywhere, with the current rules. So there is some change. We have new mayor in town, and some of the statements are in the right direction, but it's hard to move an old train that's set in its ways, I guess.
Yeah, yeah, of course, of course. Okay, so let's talk about the current market. What you're coaching your sellers is probably quite self-explanatory, but we'll touch on that, and then maybe we'll touch on more importantly, perhaps as your buyers at this moment, because I'm sure they're up against the fence and what they can and can't do. But for the sellers, especially that detached market, what are you coaching them on?
Yeah, it's a great market to really price right. So as long as you're in agreement of what the value is, it's not in your favor to necessarily underprice. So what I'm seeing with multiple offers isn't this push where the buyers are throwing down ridiculous numbers. It's more there's a lot of buyers that are interested, and they figure out what's the value for them, and it's not unheard of that I see 6 offers on a multiple offer situation, but they're all in a really tight price range. Whereas 3 years ago, the price range of those 6 offers would have potentially been 100,000, 150,000 from low to high.
Yeah,
Whereas now it's a lot more confident buyers that are interested, they're ready to buy, but they're not going to be pushed around the way they used to be. And
interesting.
so, yeah, so for a buyer, or a seller, you're almost better to price it to market, maybe a little bit above if you want to negotiate, and just be available and really do the right things. Like you're not going to get away with the sloppy house and the unorganized, unstaged home and think you're going to get top dollars anymore. The buyers tend to be drawn into the pretty houses, and if I was a buyer right now, which I've done with a few buyers that I've been working with for more than 6, 7 months, is really sit them down and figure out if you didn't like anything over the last 6 months, what do we need to change? Because it's not in
Right.
your favor to just keep looking and thinking that you're going to find it. Because there's new people coming into the market, that are more motivated and more aware almost of what the reality is, and the market's no longer going down, which a lot of buyers who've been looking for 6 to 9 months, they were just waiting for the bottom of the market, which I think is now. I think we're popping up a little bit, going to go sideways more than likely, but I don't see a lot of pressure of retraction of prices from here.
Yeah, yeah. There's a lot of golden nuggets right there, and that question is, what do you need to change, or we need to change about the current search, or
Yes.
your expectation? That is
Yeah.
golden. That is
Yeah.
golden. And from the buyer's perspective, is there starting to see? are you changing perhaps their mind a little bit on some of those opportunities and maybe condos that are sitting there for a while or that type of thing? Like, what's the days on market for the detached? Is if it's multiple offers, are you 7 days or thereabouts for the detached?
Yeah, I'd say now we have a rescission period that's come in and a few other things that
Yes.
so I'd say it's 10 days to 2 weeks on a busy property. But days on market now we're well into 35 to 45
Okay.
for a well priced property
Yeah.
on average, and it's not unusual to see 90 plus days or multiple relists that add up to that.
Right. Right.
Yeah.
And we call it a cooling off period. What do you call it there locally? For it's the 3 days, right?
Yeah,
Where
how long
yeah,
have you had
we don't
have you
have
had
it
that
at
for?
all.
Okay.
Only on pre-construction do we have that.
Okay. Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, I know it's come in since January 1st. So if someone writes a subject free offer, they automatically get a 3 day cooling off period or rescission period. And
Gotcha.
for any reason, they can extract themselves from the contract. They would have to pay a quarter of 1%. So on $1 million purchase, it'd be $2,500. We're not seeing much of that. There's still, a fair number of offers with conditions now, and the
Sure.
conditions are longer than that period of time.
Yeah, of
It's
course.
just just different for the sellers where they think they get a subject free offer, which they did, but now they are on pins and needles for 3 business
Yeah.
days.
It's really intriguing. I'd love to, and I'm sure you are, follow what that looks like over the next year or so. And even as we get into perhaps even a hotter or a seller's market, how it impacts. Maybe we'll talk about that in one of our future videos, the kind of just the whole essence of why that came in and how it's impacting, or even if it is impacting. We'll definitely touch on that because I know here in Ontario, they've talked about it, and we've been following along what's happening there in Vancouver pretty closely. So that's interesting. Good stuff. Good stuff. So from a buyer's perspective, what I'm hearing is there are opportunities, and we'll touch on perhaps in next week video, maybe some investment opportunities and what you're seeing there. And I know you, like we, not to say we like generating wealth, but we like teaching others and guiding others how to do it. Maybe that's the more important piece of it. Is that right?
Totally,
Yeah.
totally.
Yeah.
Yeah, lots to
Excellent.
uncover.
Excellent. Excellent. Well, we'll definitely, so we have a whole bunch of topics coming up right there in the next future videos. And Roland's going to check in with me approximately once a week over the next few months and talk to us about the Vancouver market and what's happening there. It's important, even if you're not buying or selling, it's important to always have kind of a thumb on the beat and what's going on and an ear to the ground, whatever the analogy is, you use it. But Roland, Kim, how do people get a hold of you?
Real simple. My email is Roland at rolandkim.com. Kim is KYM. Good Swiss name. And my phone number is 604-970-0393. And you can find me online. Just type in my name and something will pop up.
There you have it. Something will pop up, and it's Roland Kim. That's who. So we'll see everybody on the next video, and have a great day. Bye for now.
Thanks, buddy.